Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the Italian Alps and the province of Trentino. Nestled in the Dolomite Mountains is a small town called Pinzolo. The town sits at an elevation of just over 2,500 feet, with the highest peak being Cimitosa, which stands at 10,293 feet high. The climate of the south-central Alps has temperate summers that seldom get into the 80s, and winters that rarely dip below 28 degrees. The high mountains here create great hiking and ski trails, which can be enjoyed by visitors throughout the year. In the lush valleys, European beech, European mountain ash, and sycamore trees intermingle with Norway's spruce. Ancient agriculture in the area has spread many fruit and nut trees, like apple, fig, walnut, lemon, and pomegranate trees, which yield their harvest for animals and people alike in season. In this alpine garden, animals like red, fallow, and roe deer, as well as steinbok and chamois, meander meadows and climb cliffs. Wild boar steam their way through the underbrush, the same way they have for thousands of years. The predators in the area include Eurasian lynx, red fox, European jackal, and a distinct species called the Italian wolf. But lately there's been an intensifying controversy over the growing number of brown bears here. In 1999, the EU funded a program called Life Ursus, oriented on reintroducing brown bears. From 1999 to 2001, the program relocated bears from Slovenia and released them in the Dolomites, where their population has dramatically increased. The reintroduction of brown bears here caused a row with farmers and ranchers, who've lost sheep, goats, and cattle to the hungry ursines. One of the darlings of the program was a radio-collared sow, who came to be known as Daniza. On August 15, 2014, 38-year-old Daniele Maturi was headed to the woods near his hometown of Pinzolo to pick mushrooms. He was a cable car operator by profession and wanted to relax during Ferragosto, an Italian national holiday celebrating the harvest season. The holiday was started in the year 18 BC as a rest day for agricultural workers, and Daniele was hoping to make the most of his day off by picking a bushel of mushrooms. Daniele had left his vehicle at the parking lot before heading up a nearby trail in the forest. This was one of his favorite places to pick mushrooms, and he had visited many times before, with great results. As Daniele scanned the ground looking for mushroom caps, his attention was suddenly drawn to a huge brown shape only 20 feet away from him. He could see a brown bear sow and 2 cubs sleeping, and realized he had walked right up to the local bear celebrity known as Daniza. Daniele tried to turn and leave as quietly as possible, but Daniza's keen sense of smell betrayed his plans. At once the sow spun to her feet and rumbled a growl that filled the forest. She blurred toward Daniele so quickly that his reactions seemed like they were in slow motion. Before he could turn and take a step away from the bears, Daniza slapped him on the back with one of her massive paws, opening deep gashes and sending him flying onto his face. The angry sow vented her rage at Daniele's trespass by biting him in the knee and thigh. Each time she drove her 2-inch canines through his flesh, she pulled, creating pockets of pooling blood beneath the skin. As Daniele fought against Daniza for the better part of a minute, he began to lose energy. He was portly and in no shape to fight off a brown bear attack. Just as he began to resign to his fate, Daniza stopped biting and stood on top of him. Her weight crushed him into the forest duff and left deep bruises in his back. Then she turned and rounded up her cubs and vanished into the brush. Daniele was relieved as the 3 bears fled into the forest. He laid there for a few seconds, assessing his injuries, but was soon motivated to leave the area to get medical attention. He somehow managed to make his way down the trail and to a nearby hospital. Medical professionals used 50 stitches to close Daniele's injuries to his arm, knee, thigh, and back. I could find no source indicating he was treated with antibiotics or received rabies vaccinations, so it's assumed none was administered. After reports of Daniel's bear attack made the rounds through the media, local authorities decided that Daniza needed to be captured in order to preserve public safety. They used her radio collar frequency to track her and her cub's location for several days. She'd been the subject of close observation for years, and the wildlife officials were familiar with her favorite haunts. Culvert traps were set out at several locations, and now they waited for Daniza to set one of them off. Now 18-year-old Daniza was a very wary bear and avoided capture for several weeks, while local wildlife advocates demonstrated against the attempts to capture her and her cubs. They stated she may not survive the sedative administered to bears, and that would leave her cubs orphans, ensuring their death. While demonstrators attempted to sway authorities to call off Daniza's pursuit, Daniele displayed his shredded trousers and torn-up boots for cameras presenting his side of things. He pointed out that if a woman or a child had stumbled upon Daniza, they may have been killed by the protective sow. Authorities declared over the din that Daniza must be put in such a condition that she would no longer be able to assault people. Now, what that means, I'm not sure. Did they plan to remove her teeth or claws? How precisely were they going to remove her potential for danger to people? To calm the wildlife advocates, they stated that Daniza would not be harmed unless she presented a threat to the capture team. As the wildlife officers searched for Daniza, local officials in Trentino pointed out that brown bears had been decimating livestock for years and urged an end to the Ursus Life program. One local councilman, Maurizio Fugatti, suggested reintroducing the brown bears to London, Milan, Rome, or Naples, since they love the bears so much. Daniel's attack had created a social and political storm, and the clouds were just starting to gather. On September 10, 2014, Daniza and one of her cubs finally made their way into one of the culvert traps that had been set out to catch them. Wildlife officers injected sedatives into Daniza's body to make relocating her and her cubs safer and easier. After 18 years of life, Daniza died as a result of an overdose of the sedative, and her 2 8-month-old cubs were now left without her to protect and teach them. Authorities tagged and released the cub that was caught with her, hoping it would find a way to survive on its own, but the odds of that are slim to none. Daniza's second cub was never located after her capture, and has never been captured. It likely was killed and eaten by a Boer brown bear or succumbed to starvation. Daniza's death and the treatment of her cub sent wildlife advocates through the roof. Carla Rocchi, leader of the Italian Association for the Protection of Animals, lashed out by saying Daniza's death was not by chance, but a case of animalcide. Today in Italy, it is believed that there are around 50 brown bears roaming the Italian Alps and surrounding areas. That is one bear for every 378 square miles. To put it in easy-to-understand terms, for each 20-mile by 20-mile section, you could reasonably expect to see one brown bear, statistically speaking. Reports indicate that the bears are located in a small area for their numbers, and will eventually spread to new areas as they acclimate to human settlements and food resources. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Does brown bear reintroduction in the Italian Alps give us a foreshadowing of what introduction efforts may go like in states like Washington? Should wildlife researchers make visitors to the forest aware of the location of bears they are researching? Were the brown bears feeding on the same mushrooms Daniele was searching for? Was this a defensive or territorial attack? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.